And what sort of things do you think in your personality, or maybe in your co-founders' personalities, made you guys so successful at the beginning?
When I look back at that, I really think it was, first of all, it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of luck, frankly. I think we worked a lot on our communication, but more than anything else, it was hustle, and it was the willingness and the ability to get back up each time we stumbled. Every entrepreneur goes through some great highs, hopefully, and some real low lows. And when you're working, whether it's alone or with somebody else, the ones who are successful are the ones who are able to stand up after falling over and dust themselves off, learn what they needed to from it. And I think what I just talked about was an example of that, where you could see, actually, when you look back at our progress, how we were learning that lesson the hard way. It probably took us way too long, but we learned it.
And you got there.
And we got there.
So what sorts of skills do you think are really important for entrepreneurs to have at the outset?
I'm going to just pick two things. The first one is resilience, just being able to bounce back after something doesn't go your way. You have to get really comfortable hearing the word no. And as a small company that nobody knows about, you're going to hear it an awful lot. And the second one is, I think, the willingness to step outside of whatever room it is that you're in. And maybe this is maybe this is motivated by the fact that I come at this from an engineering perspective, where the easy part and the fun part is writing code. It's building something. But it was never useful to do that until I had built a real understanding of what the customer wanted. And that doesn't happen until you get outside of your room and start talking to people. And so I think developing those two skills is more important than anything else at the outset.
So what's one thing that you wish you would have known before getting started with Optimizely?
When we started our entrepreneurial journey, we started actually working on something completely different. And we built an education platform for young kids called Carrot Sticks. Had nothing to do with what we ended up working on it. I think when I look back at that time, what strikes me is how much time we spent working on things that didn't actually end up mattering. We spent a lot of time building things that nobody cared about because we didn't spend enough time getting to know our customers. And we struggled for a year, frankly, without salaries, and that was a pretty difficult time. And I think during that year, we had to really erase what we thought we knew about starting companies and really learn how to probe and understand the customers that we were trying to serve. And you can see that in our first company, Carrot Sticks, it took us about 6 months before we earned $1 doing what we were doing. With our second company, which I won't even go into, it took about a month and a half. So you can see our learning scale shrunk. And then with Optimizely, we actually were able to earn money on day one before we'd written any code. And I think that's a signal for, first of all, the fact that we'd gotten better at understanding our customers, but also for how skeptical we'd gotten of our own ideas, and that we weren't even willing to work on something unless we were able to prove that it was something people wanted enough to pay for.